Hello everyone, got 5 dirty jokes for you today. So a man returning home a day early from a business trip got into a taxi at the airport. It was after midnight. While en route to his home, he asked the cabbie if he would be a witness. The man suspected his wife was having an affair and he intended to catch her in the act. For $100, the cabbie agreed. Quietly arriving at the house, the husband and cabbie tiptoed into the bedroom. The husband switched on the lights, yanked the blanket back, and there was his wife in bed with another man. The husband put a gun to the naked man's head. The wife shouted, "Don't do it. This man has been very generous. I lied when I told you I inherited money. He paid for the Corvette I bought for you. He paid for our new cabin cruiser. He paid for our house at the lake. He paid for our country club membership, and he even pays the monthly dues." Shaking his head from side to side, the husband slowly lowered the gun. He looked over at the cab driver and said, "What would you do?" The cabbie said, "I'd cover his ass up with that blanket before he catches a cold." So a police officer is walking his beat when he catches with his eye a trail of $50 notes leading into an alley. Curious, he immediately goes in and finds an old woman with 2 bags of trash dragging on the ground, one of them leaving $50 notes in its wake. He calls the woman to halt and approaches her. "Excuse me, ma'am, but one of your bags has a hole," he points out. The woman thanks him profoundly, but he, still curious, asks, "Hope you don't mind me snooping around, but where did you get all that money?" "Well, you see, Mr. Officer," the old lady explains, "I have a lovely house at the end of the street, and it just so happens to be right next to a very famous bar. I don't mind the noise, but every night there are always some drunkards that piss all over my garden," she said, her voice shaking with indignation. "So, yesterday night I stood there with my pruning shears, and whenever someone got their thingy out I'd say, $50 or I'll cut it off." Laughing at the amusing idea of those scared drunkards handing their money, the police officer lets her go about her way. But as she turns to go, he jokingly asks, "Is the second bag filled with money too?" "Well, you know, Mr. Officer, not everyone pays." So a 7-year-old is sitting on a park bench eating a chocolate bar. The man sitting next to him looks over and says, "Eating that many chocolate bars is bad for you." The boy looks over and responds, "My great-grandfather lived to be 105. The man replies, "And he ate that much chocolate?" "No," says the boy, "he minded his own bloody business." So one afternoon, a wealthy lawyer was riding in the back of his limousine when he saw 2 men eating grass by the roadside. He ordered his driver to stop and he got out to investigate. He asked one of the men, "Why are you eating the grass?" "We don't have money for food," the poor man replied. "Oh, come along with me then," instructed the lawyer. The man answered, "But sir, I have a wife and 2 children." "Bring them along," replied the lawyer. The lawyer turned to the other man and said, "Come with us." "But sir, I have a wife and 6 children." The second man answered, "Bring them as well," replied the lawyer as he headed for his limo. They all climbed into the limo. Once underway, one of the poor fellows says, "Sir, you are too kind. Thank you for taking all of us with you." The lawyer replied, "No problem. The grass at my house is almost a foot tall." So a doctor was addressing a large audience in Oxford on the subject of modern nutrition. The rubbish we put into our stomachs should have killed most of us sitting here years ago. Red meat is full of steroids and dye. Soft drinks corrode your stomach lining. Chinese food is loaded with MSG. High trans fat diets can be disastrous, and none of us realize the long-term harm caused by the germs in our drinking water. But there is one thing that is the most dangerous of all, and most of us have, or will eat it. Can anyone here tell me what food it is that causes the most grief and suffering for years after eating it? After several seconds of quiet, a 70-year-old man in the front row raised his hand and softly said, "Wedding cake."